between Creek Nation and our own citizens here in Okmulgee. I want to introduce my family that Sergeant Larabee pointed out. They're here with me today. My wife, Crystal, kind of waving. My son, look how tall he's getting, almost 15 years old this year. And my good friend Lane. Lane actually provided the PA for us today. Y'all might recognize Lane. He's the director of Shout's Funeral Home, so he knows this area real well out here. Well, Sergeant Larabee asked me to speak. Okay, so I've certainly got a lot of notes, but I don't want to keep you in the rain too if we have a lot of rain going. But I want to start with a question this morning. How do we say thank you to those who have given their lives? How can we? How can we be surrounded by all these images and memories, and how can we bring honor and gratitude to that? Now, some of you here have been serving yourselves, right? Sergeant Larabee and others, Cassandra and others, have given their, literally, have served throughout their lives, given their lives in service. And that's certainly worthy of honor of these men and women that have passed. But what about those, myself included, my family, who haven't ever enlisted? How do we say thank you? Can we do it with our words? I don't think words, unfortunately, mean that much. I think President Reagan said it best. I'm going to read a quote, and I posted this on Facebook this morning as part of my morning kind of devotional that I put up there. President Reagan said, "If words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions we must strive to keep faith with them and with the vision that led them to the battle and to the final sacrifice." So I think with that, we have to remember that it's our actions that show honor to those that have passed. So I'm going to give you 3 quick thoughts of how we can do that. These are not original to me. They're not thoughts that I came up with. They're thoughts that if me and you sit down and ask this question together, we would probably come up with these 3 things. They're certainly not the only things. And I want to say that as I mention what these 3 things are, you can kind of tell as we talk about them that it's almost a little embarrassing in our culture today that we would have to bring up these 3 things. That there's been so many changes in our culture that maybe as I list them, you'll kind of understand and go through that it's not something to be proud of, that we have to point out that these are the basics that we ought to get back to, right? But I think these are some simple actions that we can all do that can show honor to those who have paid the final price and given that sacrifice for us. And the first one is simple. I think we need to vote. How simple is that? When we talk about voting, and I know we just went through a crazy election year, and sometimes on those big elections, everybody anymore, they like to share their opinion on Facebook, right, and social media, and so they get out, and that's about all you see when it comes to voting. You see the negativity, and you see the, pitting us almost against one another. But I'm even talking about voting in local elections. I'm talking about understanding the issues of your community enough to show up and vote when there's a bond issue or a school board election or a local city council election. I'll give you just one statistic from when I was elected to kind of paint a picture here in Okmulgee, and we had about 800 people vote. So if you did the percentage of that, that's about 6% of the city's population that showed up to vote on there. So are we okay with 93, 94% of the population not voting in local elections? I think voting is one of those basic things that we could get back to and say that we need to be more aware of who we let into leadership, right? And a lot of these issues, as I kind of read the next couple things that you're going to see, are such deep cultural issues that it starts with those leaders that we put in office. And it starts with getting to know them, not just getting to know them, but being a part of the solution, forming a relationship with them and stepping up in the community to solve a problem. I feel like God has blessed and opened doors for my family just because we were willing to maybe serve or be a part of the solution. Not necessarily we weren't looking to be in leadership. I still question some of y'all for putting me in leadership positions, but but we're blessed to be here, and I hope that you take seriously. I'm not saying anything to my own position. I'm saying in general, we need to know who are in these local positions, and we need to all get out and do our part and vote. The second thing, and go right along with it, and if you know me, you'll know this is where my heart is. We need to serve our community. If you're standing here this morning, and you probably, if you've ever heard me speak before, you're going to think, man, Richard always speaks about this. If you're a Christian, how could you not serve your community? How could you not feel like that's your calling, that's your mission field? I look at life as a Christian, and I think that we're all called to ministry. And ministry doesn't mean being behind the pulpit or pastoring. To some it does, but it just literally means service. The word itself just means service. We're called to get out and serve our community. You ask my family, they probably think we serve a little bit too much sometimes. And my son gets to be out there with us. But I love the quote that said, volunteering, because that's what it is. Volunteering is one of the most democratic things that you can do, according to this quote that I like, because you get to vote by your actions the type of community that you want to live in on it. That's why we push so hard to come up with the projects that we do and give people those opportunities, because I believe that it's something basic that we all need to get back to, especially in towns of our size on it. The third one is probably the most important to me. I'll go through these a little quickly, but the third one I want to spend some time on is we need to live out values in our homes. We need to get back to a basic set of values, what we used to call American values. Now I'm going to share, and I won't go real deep in detail. You can ask me sometimes afterwards, and I'm happy to share my testimony with you. But my childhood growing up was with a mom that was an alcoholic and passed of her alcoholism, with a father that had some other issues that we won't go into today, and we were kind of given to different family members back and forth. In some way it was a blessing, because it's how I ended up meeting my wife and being here in Okmulgee. But in other ways, it didn't teach me to value family that much. When I looked at the actions of my mom and dad, just being honest with you, it didn't teach me to have those values of family growing up. Now, thankfully, I had my grandpa that used to live here in Okmulgee. Maybe some of y'all knew him, Preston Cottle, and he's passed now. He was a veteran. He served in the Air Force. But my grandpa was about the only consistent thing in my childhood, the only consistent person in my childhood. And he taught me that family matters so much. And now, today, me and my wife are going on 16 years of marriage, coming this November. We've got, of course, my 14-year-old son, like I said, about to be 15, and he's growing up a lot different than either one of us grew up. And it's because we've chosen to live out those values at our home. And when I look at some of my son's friends at school, some of the kids that he goes to school with, gosh, it just worries me, guys. I think that there's so many more kids experiencing what I experienced as a child, of just growing up in that chaos, that unknown. You know, it's not even, we used to say broken homes, now it's broken families, right? There's just so much of it. It's an epidemic across our whole country. And we can kind of look at that, and some of you that maybe, you know, raised your kids with those values, that raised your home by those values, think, well, what can we do for others, right? That was very much the choice of their families or how they've acted. Well, I think that we can pray for them, but I think we can do more than that too. I think some of you standing here today might be challenged to be a mentor to some of those young people, or to get involved in their lives. And I just want to challenge each of you. You can get a hold of me after this, and I'll give you some opportunities that we've set up locally for that. But how will these young people know what to value unless we model that to them, right? Unless I'd had my grandpa, how would I have known, you know, how to model those values, how to have something meaningful in our family? So I would challenge you that as we think today of how can we show honor, how can we show gratitude to these men and women that have passed, I think those three things are a pretty good place to start, right? And something that we can all do. So I started with that question, how can we say thank you? And the answer, as you can tell through the three things that I mentioned, is they gave their lives in their death. But we need to give our lives in the way that we live on it. We need to all be challenged to come back to a place where we can say that those are American values that we're living out in our home, that we can all carry that out in our families. So I thank y'all for having me here today. Those are my thoughts just briefly that I wanted to share with you. And again, thank you, Sergeant Larabee, for having me.
Okay, it's on. Pearl is going to lead us in some songs.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's always good to be here because I always see all these familiar faces that I've seen over all of these years. You've always been there to support me, and I know that you can sing. We don't have the words, but you know America the Beautiful. So sing out. If you can't say the words, hum it. You know, hum it. So. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Let's go ahead and do it.
God bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you. Thank you.
Sandra?
Hi, Bob. Nice to see you. Where's your brother?
She called him out, didn't she?
It is my solemn privilege to recite for you the following. Final roll call. Did you hear the sad news today? Another veteran warrior has passed away. Called by the Supreme Commander over all, today he has made his final roll call. The following names are veterans of this community who have passed and have made their final roll call. Our handsome chaplain here will ring the bell after each name. Robert Glenn Peeler, U.S. Air Force. Michael Henry Logan, U.S. Marine Corps. Cecil Dathan Vaughn, U.S. Army. Theodore James Maley, U.S. Army. Michael William Farrell, U.S. Army Special Forces. David Morgan Bush, Sr., U.S. Navy. R.D. Miller, U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force. James Perry Vanderpool, Jr., U.S. Army. Louis C. Moore, Army Air Force. Eldon J. Jarvis, U.S. Army. Leslie V. Love, U.S. Air Force. Ted B. Morgan, U.S. Navy. He's having me because I called him handsome. The presentation of wreaths will be done by the Gold Star Mothers, followed by the Veterans of Foreign War and their auxiliary, and then by the American Legion. Please stand and we will escort you to the flag yonder. So now the women, the people carrying the wreaths, please walk to down there. Y'all have wreaths? The wreaths are beautiful flowers. They contain our heartfelt feelings, honor, respect.
figured. Just a man crying.
It's easy to see Daddy's headstone with the flowers. My dad's buried right over there. With the blue, that's where my dad's buried. Just the single blue poof of flowers, that's it.
I like it.
I'm fine. How about you?
When are you gonna go home?
When Michael gonna go home?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. He's up there.
Do you know what that means? What? It means they were soldiers. Do you know this before?
Huh?
Play for you?
Yes, he will.
Yes, who is? Never even had one before.
Me either.
And does that one replay today?
Yes, he is. That's right here. It's all dressed up. Cemetery. Got the hat on. All that stuff.
I had the tie at home, but I lost it.
You had a what?
Tie.
Oh, I did mine too. I had to borrow one from the guy next door.
Big ten.
No.
We're gonna go over to your house when you get there.
I don't know yet.
Maybe sometime you go there when you go there.
That's right. That's it.
Your hat says 10 on it.
Please remain standing. The firing of volleys and the playing of taps. At trail arms. Right, peace. Forward, march. Detail. Right shoulder. March.
Can you get a picture of the wreaths up there?